The midnight hour is upon us. It's time once again for two internet strangers to discuss the good and evil of the horror genre. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the terror within the Hallow-Holics Anonymous podcast.
Gertrude, look at this beautiful sweater I've been knitting all weekend.
That's what you get for messing
I've
with
even
the wild
soaked up
blue
quite a
hairs.
bit of blood of our enemies into it.
I have this great
Add some
recipe for a
texture.
Molotov cocktail.
my children stopped calling me after I stabbed my brother-in-law.
It's funny you should say that, because all my relatives stopped calling me because I stabbed them all. They deserved it.
I've got heart.
Well, you did it, Corey. You started an AIDS war. I hope you're happy.
Listen, I can't help it if our town is helpless beneath the chaotic rule of granny bikers. So what if we're barricaded in the studio while they rain geriatric terror around us? It's not my problem.
Okay, before that 90-year-old Mohawk sporting fogey who just drove through the window pulls the switchblade out of her walker, let's just do the podcast.
Let's dance!
Hi, I'm Maddie.
And I'm Corey. And this is Hallow-Holics Anonymous, a show dedicated to all things horror and occasionally Halloween. And often bikers.
I'm not quite sure why we decided to do a part 2 for the biker concept.
It's the summer. We should just do biker summer. We've got so many more we can do. We do like Werewolves on Wheels,
Easy Rider.
Easy Rider, yeah. I was trying to bring it back to horror, but I'll do Easy Rider.
Oh, that'd mean watching it again, and it's such a downer.
It really, really is.
We could do Pink Angels, which is a terrible movie. I don't think I could watch that one again either.
Is that about gay bikers?
It's about drag queen bikers, but they're all played by straight men playing drag queens. They don't dress very well. And the whole point of making the movie, which was made in the 1970s, was to see if they could actually get it distributed. It was a gag to even make the film in the first place. It's terrible.
Now I have to watch it. Yeah, I'd have to. There are a lot of really bad biker movies. I mean, there's a lot of really good ones. Like, I would love to sit down and watch Savage 7 again.
But this week it's biker stuff again. Wheels on Fire Part 2.
Yes.
And we're a little out of practice. As you could probably tell, we took a short break.
We're out of practice. I'm sick and have a mangled foot, so I'm on all kinds of medicine.
Oh boy. So before we get started on anything, let me get this out of the way. I have a little bit of horror news.
Oh, you have your thing for horror news.
Horror news.
I was impersonating. I did well. Like, you should use mine.
You sounded more like one of those granny bikers.
Luckily they're staying chill right now. We can record.
Yeah, I know. Well, I only have one bit of horror news, but I felt like it was pretty important to say, even though most of you probably already know, the Swamp Thing series was launched with one episode and canceled.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm so mad. It's still okay. Let me jump on this for a minute because I'm pissed. It was canceled after the first episode, but they are airing all the episodes. Episode 4 just came out this weekend, and it's great. It's the sort of horror movie Swamp Thing rather than the cheesy like first run of the comics when Arcane was like this hand-wringing bad guy and there were like airships and stuff. This is a lot more grounded in horror, and they're already hinting at like the green, the like magic in the swamp and all that stuff. If they just would have given it another season or two, it would have like there would have been so many interesting concepts. This could have been one of the most amazing DC TV shows ever, and they've already killed it because they made the stupid decision to put it on their crappy streaming service that nobody's buying because everyone's overloaded on streaming services right now.
Exactly. And also, was Swampy hot at all?
No, Swampy is not hot.
See,
but they
there's
do
your
this
problem
amazing
right there.
thing. in the second episode, when he is trying to figure out what happened to him, he just starts tearing chunks of his body off. Like he pulls like chunks of his head off. So you see this big vacant like place where he essentially just like tore the moss body off, and you see it start to regrow and like him just tearing at himself. It was so cool.
That is awesome.
And it's such a good show so far.
Oh man, that's so disappointing. Now that I know it's good.
Mm-hmm. So I'll get you all the episodes. It's going to be worth watching.
Okay.
Doom Patrol on that same streaming service is excellent as well. Titans was okay, but I doubt they're going to fare much better because this is definitely going to go under. There's no way they're making the money to support two superhero shows now.
Well, even though Amazon is the devil, I do like what they offer as far as streaming goes, because you can sort of subscribe to some streaming services through Amazon for a discount rate, and that's how I do Shudder. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I still haven't canceled my Stars because it's $5 a month. But if they could do it through Amazon, do they offer it through Amazon at all?
I don't know. I didn't even check.
Yeah, I would think that would be a better option. In fact, I think the future of streaming is figuring out a way to negotiate among channels to.
I think it's going to have to be. It's going to have to be already existing streaming shows. They're going to have to license it out.
Yeah, because no one wants to pay separate monthly fees for Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, and just beyond that, I do all three, and frankly, it's annoying to have to keep track of all those multiple bill charges.
Yeah, I do all of it and regular cable TV for my mom, and it's very, very hard to keep track of everything. I feel like I had something else to say about this. Meh.
You must have Alzheimer's. Maybe you should join that gang.
I will. I'm almost old enough.
Yeah. Did you get anything in the mail this week or last week or whenever?
I did. Actually, it came during camp. So I think our last episode was a horror pack episode too. So it's been a minute since we've done an episode.
Yeah, no, it feels so weird getting back in the saddle.
I know. This is the one time that you can say, wow, I feel like we haven't talked for so long, and it's actually true because we haven't. But yes, I am holding here my horror pack. And horror packs are now bittersweet because I used to know that I was closer to a coffin box when I get my horror pack, and now there's no more coffin boxes, and I really like those.
You still haven't found another option?
Nothing that I'm willing to pay for, no. There's a bunch of like knick-knack subscriptions and stuff like that, but if you see anything, let me know, and I'll probably sign up for it.
I just remembered something before we go into Horror Pack. I would like to acknowledge one of our first listener emails from a Mr. Marcin Ramos. He sent us some really fun kind of Halloween-y songs. Really cool. So I'm not really quite sure how to track his material down, but thank you, Mr. Ramos. So we love your music, and we might want to feature it in the show in the future.
Yeah, that would be cool. Hit us up, definitely. Give us more information.
Yeah, it's very honky-tonk, rockabilly, old-fashioned Halloween music.
Ooh, nice. Dude, if you're listening, I only play Gretsch guitars, if that helps with our clout with you and wanting to come onto the show at some point.
Back to Horror Pack.
Yes, so Horror Pack came with two tried and true awesome movies as far as I'm concerned, but I've already seen them, so that's a little sad. We'll save those for last. First up, the ones I know nothing about and probably don't care to. First up, we have a Misha Barton vehicle. Misha Barton is not Constantine on Supernatural. Castiel. It is called Walled In. Some secrets are better left buried. So every tagline ever used ever right there. Oh, and the sticker is in the way. Where's my knife?
Kind of intrigued by the title combined with the tagline, though.
Kind of. I mean,
is it Edgar Allan Poe-ish or?
Oh man, that sticker's on the inside.
Yeah, that Foley, that's a sweet cut right there.
Yeah.
Listen to that. It's like ASMR. It's almost like you're unwrapping it at home, listeners.
Ew, I hate ASMR. All right.
Yet you're doing it so well.
I'm sorry. I mean, I hate ASMR. Oh. Now I'm disgusted at myself. All right. Back to our actual show. So, Walled In, based on the best-selling book and graphic novel that I've never heard of, but now I have to buy more comic books. Ugh.
You don't have to.
Oh, wait, Misha Barton is not the dude from Supernatural. Misha Barton was in the OC. Misha Barton's, I think, a girl, maybe. No, he's a dude. All right, basically what I want you guys to take away from this is I have no idea who Misha Barton actually is. Let's continue. In 1993, 16 bodies were found entombed within the Malastraza building, a mysterious apartment complex built by one of the world's most renowned yet eccentric architects.
Why are they always eccentric?
Yeah, is there any other kind?
Boring standard architect that designs something insane.
I just design crazy buildings and get home in time for dinner and helping my kids with his homework.
What if Mr. Brady created a nightmarish hellscape for once, huh?
Well, he did. Have you seen his house? Sunken living rooms are horrifying. Anyway, so the killer was never caught. 15 years later, the newly graduated structural engineer Sam Walchek, Misha Barton of the OC, that's how I found out it was a dude, arrives to prepare the site for demolition. But this massive concrete crypt is not entirely empty. Its halls are lined with secrets. Its rooms are filled with fear. And behind its walls, the ultimate horror lay waiting until now. Cameron Bright, X-Men, Last Stand, Deborah Kara, Unger, Silent Hill, and Noam Jenkins, Saw 4, co-star in the saga of terror, torment, and shocking twists based on the best-selling horror novel. You know, all mockery aside, that doesn't quite sound as terrible as I thought it was going to when I first started reading it.
Yeah, it might be okay.
Yeah, I might take this one back out to camp for our horror club. I, of course, run it. All right, so that is safely back. Oh, crap. Hold on, I messed up putting the liner notes back in.
Do you have a lava lamp?
No.
Oh.
What kind of person do you think I am?
Well, I have one, and I'm staring at it right now, and it's so cool to watch the old wax, finally begin to melt, because it freezes in the air for a while before it continues, and it's just not really lava-y yet.
I feel like I need to remind you that I'm the high one right now, Maddie. But dude, just check out my lava lamp.
It's cool. It's science, okay?
All right. Next up is the Horror Pack Limited Edition Blu-ray. The movie is called Life Changer. It's got a pretty dope cover. Wait, have you seen it?
Title.
Oh yeah, the title's kind of beat. The cover's cool. It's some corpsey dude with butterfly wings, which obviously has pictures of the characters sort of stuck in there. And there's some weird veiny crap flinging around behind him. No tagline, unfortunately. So Life Changer. Drew has an identity problem. I dare say he might want to change his life. I added that part. This one. Every few days he has to shapeshift or face a painful death. He has to find someone and make a copy. He takes everything, their looks, memories, hopes, and dreams, their entire life. He becomes them and they die horribly. Lately, the changes are becoming more frequent. Facing his imminent death, Drew sets out on one final blood-soaked mission. That sounds sort of rad.
I feel like I've read a story like that before.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to put that in the to the movie night horror club. All right, next up. This is the first one that I've seen and I absolutely loved out of the two. So first we have Antibirth with Natasha Lyonne from
I love Natasha Lyonne.
Yeah,
she's also in But I'm a Cheerleader, and she's in all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but listen to this cast. Natasha Lyonne, Chloe Sevigny, and Meg Tilly. Yeah, it's so rad. So this movie's so good. All right. Hard-drinking, pill-popping, bong-ripping Lou, Natasha Lyonne, Orange is the New Black, and her best friend Sadie, Chloe Sevigny, American Horror Story, spend their days adrift in a druggy haze. But one wild night out becomes a bad trip that never ends when Lou wakes up with symptoms of an unexplained, highly abnormal pregnancy. Who or what is growing inside of her? As her due date approaches with alarming swiftness, the fear, paranoia, and conspiracy theories begin to pile up. spiked with blasts of hallucinatory color, surreal shocks, and subversive comedy. The audacious feature debut from Danny Perez is a no-holds-barred descent into delirium. This weird and messy, oddly fascinating film also stars Meg Tilly and Mark Webber.
Well, that might not be too bad. It seems like it could go either way.
It's good. It's good. It's just this crass, hilarious, dark comedy, and it's just a mess of a movie, but it's so much fun. Okay. I really like Anti-Venom.
Seems like there's been a lot of pregnant lady horror films lately.
Well, pregnancy is scary. That's why I had my nuts cut.
Because you don't want to get pregnant?
Right. Exactly, because that's how that works. I learned it in public school. All right, and finally, not only is this the jewel of this month's horror pack, but this is now one of the jewels of my Blu-ray collection. They sent me a copy of Baskin.
Oh, I don't like that movie, but that's still pretty cool.
Dude, you don't like Baskin? Oh, because you weren't really a Hellraiser person.
No. I like Hellraiser. I love Hellraiser. I thought the ending of Baskin was a cop-out.
Oh, I'd have to go back and watch. I don't remember the ending. I just remembered really liking it. Oh, okay. Enter a world of suffering and madness is the tagline. And some fella trying to climb out of a keyhole. He's not going to fit. So a squad of unsuspecting cops enter the blood-spattered bowels of hell when they stumble upon a black mass and unspeakable horrors in an abandoned building. This tour de force feature debut from ferociously talented director Ken Evernol. Excuse me, I'm going to go with Evernol. Inspirations drawn from Apocalypse Now and Hellraiser, as well as the artistic works of Caravaggio and H.R. Geiger. I really like this. I thought it was super weird, super dark. It wasn't a bunch of pretty people playing like ugly. You know, they got a bunch of weird looking people to play the demons when they get to that part. And I thought it was pretty cool. The guy who plays, I can't remember if the main character's name's Baskin or what, but like he's weird in all the right ways looking.
His name isn't Baskin. I thought it was a movie trying to be mysterious and craft a mythology without telling you anything, but they gave you kind of the wrong balance of it. They gave you too much and too little at the same time. I wasn't satisfied with that film on the whole. I was very disappointed with how it ended.
I'll watch it again with that in my mind and see if maybe you've ruined it for me.
Yes.
So that was the end of Horror Pack, but this just made me think of something. Have you seen the preview for Midsommar yet?
I did.
I don't know. I can't remember if you liked Hereditary or not.
Hereditary. I thought it was alright. I enjoyed it the first viewing. I think if I watched it again and really examined it, I might not like it as much, but I enjoyed it for the first time.
Oh, okay. I really liked it just because it's nice to see my favorite demons finally getting to be on TV.
And I love miniatures, so.
Yeah. Midsommar looked really dope. The trailer didn't really give much away, and it just looks unsettling, I guess is a good way to put it. I'm kind of excited for it.
A little off topic, but I did see the trailer for Dark Crystal, and it looks incredible.
I have not seen anything Dark Crystal related because I want to go into it completely fresh.
Oh, it looks stunning. Cause I thought it was going to be all CGI, but no, it's CGI supplements the puppetry, and it's so breathtaking.
It's a prequel, right?
Sort of an extension, I think, of the film. It's a series.
No, I know it's a series, but I think it all happens before the film does.
I think it's going to incorporate what happened during the film, but I don't know.
That'd be cool too.
Yeah, but
either way, like I'm not even watching the original again, just on the off chance it is a prequel. I just want to go in completely like blank.
You know, it was one of Jim Henson's most ambitious storylines, and he had to cut back so much on it for the film that I'm excited to see if they use some of the ideas he had, you know?
Oh, that was way too loud. Sorry.
What were you saying?
All right, now we're back to normal. Yeah, I bet they would, because you know he's the kind of guy to like take massive notes and just leave them.
Man.
You know, so I'm sure they have like a bunch of stuff to work with. The Dark Crystal, like it's always technology was too far behind to get it to be what it really needed to be. It needs to be as epic as like the Lord of the Rings. You know, it's basic, like it needs to be that level of like a quest movie. And now that tech's kind of caught up with all that stuff, I'm really hoping like that world just explodes and it's just so much bigger.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Oh, by the way, my lava lamp, like the wax has blossomed from the center now and it's still kind of frozen, but it looks like something from the Dark Crystal.
Are you talking about your lava lamp because you want me to get riled up about something?
No, it's just a really cool effect.
Okay, because you told me about this prank, and now I'm thinking everything you say to me has something to do with this prank.
No. Are you ready for the game?
Yeah, as long as you're willing to explain to me what it is.
Build a biker gang. We are going to build a biker gang of the meanest, roughest, toughest individual you can possibly conceive for a horror film. Think one dark, stormy night with a bunch of bikers, and that's what we're trying to craft. We each pick a biker from a movie, well, a character from a movie to be a biker, and we'll get 3 options. We'll get 3 choices back and forth to build the perfect biker gang.
Okay, 3 choices each.
Okay, so you start.
I think you should start.
Are you sure you want me to start?
I mean, I don't really have an opinion one way or the other. I just feel like if you start, I'll understand it a little more when it gets to my turn.
Okay. Well, I think you need to have a tough in a biker gang. You need to have, muscle, someone who's like just, bestial. So I'm going to go with Grendel from Beowulf, played by Crispin Glover.
Just jumping right into it.
Yeah.
Good choice.
But the one played by Crispin Glover.
Yeah. There is no other Grendel. I hated that movie, but I really liked Crispin Glover. All right. So there's always it's 2019. You always need a tech guy, right?
Yeah.
And you need somebody who can do the hacks.
Like the obnoxious, bank heist guy from, Die Hard.
Yeah. Only since this is our biker gang, I'm picking the lawnmower man.
Oh, well, he's smart.
Well, if we get him at the right time, he is.
Yeah. Okay.
As long as he doesn't go off on one of his "I am God here" rants, I think we'll be okay.
I mean, it's basically a sci-fi version of Flowers for Algernon, but...
Nerd.
So, my next choice is you need someone really creepy and disturbing to keep the locals away. Someone who people look at and they're like, gosh, that guy he's definitely a weird gang member. So I'm going to go with Willard, played by Crispin Glover.
I see what you're doing here, and I love it, but I'm not going to start picking Crispin Glover characters. Oh, can you imagine how annoying it would be to get the Crispin Glover character Bartleby in on this?
Oh, man, I wouldn't even try.
He would just say, I'd prefer not to, over and over again. Oh, it'd be awful. All right, my next pick. Every biker gang needs a leader. Mm-hmm. And if you already have a leader planned, I would be willing to move mine to second in command to accommodate.
Okay.
But, it needs a strong leader who's also tough. I'm going to keep talking because I haven't actually thought of anybody yet. It can't be a silent hero. They have to be able to talk so they can give orders and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think, and it needs to be somebody with like a dark history and that like there's revenge that needs to happen eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Radu from Subspecies.
Oh my God.
Bring my boy back. Yeah.
Well, there's only one man who can keep him under control. One man who would be a much better authority figure who could guide this entire ragtag band through this dark, stormy night with a biker gang. George McFly.
Is it Marty McFly's dad? I knew it.
He's the only man who would look at Radu and say, "No, Radu, get your hands off that bike," and punch him at the dance.
So I assume we're going for post time travel. Yeah. Good. That's perfect. Oh, how do I follow that up? You're doing so much better than me. This is my third one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because I was thinking about him earlier today, you need like a survivalist, someone who can get you where you're going. And like bikers are always in deserts and they always seem to be Well, I'm going to mention this again when we get to my movie, but they always seem to be in a place where society's crumbled a little bit, and the cops are, if there are even cops, they're just not efficient and they're terrible at their job.
So real quick, not William Foster from the Donner Party, played by Crispin Glover.
No.
Okay.
No. I'm going with Mad Max.
Oh,
But I'm not going with Mad Max played by Mel Gibson. I'm going to go with the Tom Hardy Mad Max because he just felt like he was a little more able to work with other people and just a little bit better at surviving than the original. Plus, he's a lot less racist in real life.
Less anti-Semitic.
Right. Because we here at the Hallow-Holics love our Jewish brethren.
That felt like really pandery just now when you said that.
No, I do really like Jewish people, though. Like, my second family were Jews.
Yeah, my uncle is Jewish, so. Yeah.
Well, there, now that we've both established that we know Jewish,
to the fact.
we can carry on.
But we do need a villain, so I'm going to go ahead and say the villain in this Dark Stormy Night is Andy Warhol from The Doors, played by Crispin Glover.
So is this the type of biker villain that was once part of the gang and like went off to do his own gang? Mm-hmm. Or is this just an off the wall like
he just got bored. He got tired of it and he wanted to do something different.
Fair enough. Yeah, and I feel like Andy Warhol's a terrible bad guy though, because he didn't have the attention span to like be a bad guy. Like, you know what I mean? He just wouldn't have a follow through on that. He'd be too busy like telling someone to paint soup cans or filming a fella getting his wiener messed with.
It's like, are you going to finish that?
Well, I was trying to figure out how to say it where you wouldn't edit it out.
Well, no, look at this. These bikers represent the ultimate freedom and exploration of society and escaping the world we know. Andy Warhol is all about defining the world we know and changing it. Don't you think those two are at odds?
Yeah. But Crispin Glover is not even from any world we know, so that kind of messes it all up.
Oh, that's true.
But I think we're onto something here.
That was my prank, by the way.
It's a good prank.
Yeah.
So weird that you were just randomly talking about a lava lamp then. The hell's wrong with you?
I have a lava lamp right in front of me and I very rarely turn it on. I turn it on maybe once a year.
Is this a special occasion because we're finally recording again? Do you turn on it's like a champagne of lava lamps?
Yeah, and like the light in my my office room died.
So I think for this biker movie to work, we need more Crispin Glover though. Like I think that we need his character from Friday the 13th to like show up in like a biker bar. You know how they always have that scene where they go into the bar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's all rough and tumble. I just think we need no explanation. We need his Friday the 13th character doing that dance in the background.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. The camera just goes over to it. Nobody's paying attention to him and he's just doing it.
And maybe the bar is owned by Bartleby?
And the weird assassin character he plays in Charlie's Angels could be like Andy Warhol's muscle.
Mm-hmm. You know, he played Willy Wonka in Epic Movie. We could probably throw Willy Wonka in there somewhere.
Yeah, we could. That could be where the bikers get their drugs for their parties.
Yeah. From the Candyman.
The soundtrack has to be all of his music, too, from his album.
Yeah. Well, as long as it's not Corey Feldman's music.
Oh, God.
You know,
Don't make me go off on that again.
Dude, I tried to listen. I tried to think of good points about those songs. Be like, well, you know, he's trying hard. Maybe he's being ironic. This is all just about being funny. No, he's serious.
I went through the same range of emotion because I love him. And I tried to convince myself that what he was doing was just some like amazing troll.
I would go to his shows to support him, but not to really listen to the music.
Like imagine you couldn't look anywhere. You'd look on the stage and you'd cringe.
And
you'd look out into the audience.
Hoodie, and the women with the angel wings are dancing around him.
Yeah,
and
it's just so cringe. And then you look out into the audience to hope to find like that one other person that's there because they like Corey Feldman. And all that you see is like an entire audience of people mocking him.
Oh,
and
gosh.
him not getting that.
And it makes you want to applaud him louder, but then it looks like you're making fun of him for applauding so loud.
Yeah, this is a terrible idea. We can't ever go to a we can't ever go to a Corey Feldman show.
Or a Crispin Glover show.
No, I can go to a Crispin Glover show. I love his record.
This is actually pretty HQ for a trailer from this period.
Yeah.
Hell-raising troublemakers. And they're all partying and doing sex stuff. The Wild
I would
Ones.
love to find a party like that.
They're wild and no angels, law-defying, getting their kicks from violence and torture.
Law-defying.
The Wild Angels, starring Peter Fonda and Nancy Sinatra.
Oh, she was so gorgeous in this.
Oh, she's always beautiful.
Yeah.
In the Angel Gang, if you're one man's woman, you're his old lady.
Well, because the way I used to be and all, you know, I just figured that you thought I...
You talk too much.
You tell her, Peter Fonda.
If you're a mama, you're every man's woman.
All right, everybody. We race up to that end of the canyon. The first one gets Mama Monahan. I'm ready.
Hey, at least it was consensual.
Yeah, I guess so.
Look, baby, I said we're going to have a party now.
Oh, man,
Listen,
I hate that
Frankenstein,
guy.
get lost.
Oh, that guy was a
Carry
dick.
you.
Oh, man, I got more than the loser ever had.
Oh, blues!
These are the Aginners. Their emblems, those of the defeated, the despised. Their intimacies, a rape of decency. Their every enjoyment, a parody of pleasure.
This music is so good.
It is.
The Wild Ones, death defiant.
So I love that Mind resurrects a lot of the world.
Yeah, we don't want nobody telling us what to do.
Oh,
We
that's
don't want nobody
sweet.
pushing us around.
Just what is it that you want to do?
We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded. Oh, no, preach. Not children of God, but hell's angels.
This is a never-ending party. This whole movie is. And a long trailer. My God. They live for the joys of hell.
I can relate.
It's a tough life, living by your own rules, surfing the road with your girl by your side and a group of fun-loving friends at your beck and call. At least that's how Blues sees it anyway. For everyone else, the tale of the Wild Angels is a story of a bunch of jackasses who pick fights, ride bikes, rape women, hassle cops, annoy hospital staff, party constantly, and hog-tie old priests. In the middle of it all, they still manage to give inspiring speeches to each other that somehow makes it all okay. Because they gotta be free.
Much like that inspiring speech we just heard. We want to be free to ride our machines. We want to get loaded. Awkward pause.
So before we get too into this, whether I did or did not love this movie makes no difference because it set the rules for the biker picture after it. And an addendum to that note, I hated this the first time, disliked it the second time, and actually appreciated it the third. But that doesn't mean I liked it. But I can appreciate it more.
What the hell are you talking about this movie or
Yes,
Easy Rider?
This movie.
Okay.
I only watched Easy Rider once after this.
But is that the movie you were talking about that it laid the groundwork for? I'm confused.
Wild Angels laid the groundwork for biker movies.
Okay. I didn't know this was one of the earlier ones.
Yeah, it was before Easy Rider, and I'll get to that later, but the music, first of all, was written by Mike Curb and David Allen, performed by David Allen in the Arrows, and I love how this genre is called fuzz tone guitar, because the guitar is fuzzy.
Wait, do you not know what a fuzz tone is?
I do not.
Hold on, let me take a drink of water. Fuzz is a type of pedal for like a fuzz pedal.
Yeah.
It's what a lot of like gloom metal and like stoner metal bands use and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
At least I think that's what they'd be going for here. But like it's a distortion pedal, so it makes your guitars sound fuzzier, not physically being fuzzy.
Well, I mean, it was...
Like, you don't have to borrow ZZ Top's guitars to play these songs.
Well, the tone was actually created during a recording by Glenn Snoddy when he was working for Marty Robbins that became incredibly popular. It was kind of an accident, and then they realized people actually liked that sound, so he experimented and did come up with what you just described. And
that's really interesting.
Yeah, and it is called fuzz tone specifically because what the name is a sound made with guitars that distorts the effect, making it fuzzy in the process. And this soundtrack is a really great example of it.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to lay down the 7 rules of the biker film as demonstrated by Wild Angels, and you see in almost every biker film afterwards. Are you ready, sir?
Yeah, I'm going to spend most of my time thinking if my movie relates.
Okay.
Or if they apply to my movie.
Number 1, never mess with a man's bike. Number 2, there must be fights regardless of whether or not they are justified or on the good side or even the winning side. Mm. Number 3, bikers live and die with nothing but nihilism in their minds. Mm. Number 4, always fight the man, even if it's just a young mother with a baby in her stroller. To a biker in that moment, she's the man and must be dealt with accordingly. Follow rules that the man tells you.
Was this the one where they ran over the baby, or was that in the last one?
That was Psychomania. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But this one, they did hassle people.
Yeah.
Number 5, unless married to a living member of the gang, all women in biker groups are fair game mamas and will be subject to all forms of sex, consensual or not. Number 6, they aren't men of words. Do not expect any philosophy beyond a punch to the face and a shot of tequila. And number 7, there's always a chance of redemption for the leader, as long as he's the main character.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, the 7 rules of the biker picture. Do you feel like any of those rules can relate to your movie?
Most of them. They didn't really care about their bikes, and they didn't really fight over bikes in my movie. They complimented each other's bikes sometimes, but that's it. The philosophy, I feel like my movie is trying to be smart. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it works, so I think it sounds maybe like there's some philosophy happening in my movie, but I think that's just the way the dialogue is flowing.
Regardless, I think when your movie picks up, it's fun. Mm-hmm. Smart or not.
Yeah. But I think most of the rest of them definitely apply to my movie.
Mm-hmm. Now, Peter Fonda played Heavenly Blues. That's his character's full name, but they usually just call him Blues. He's obviously the son of Henry Fonda, brother of Jane Fonda, best known for Easy Rider, Yuli's Gold, Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, and Race with the Devil. This was probably one of the better movies he did. Though really Easy Rider was probably the best of all the stuff he's done.
The Trip was really good too.
Then we have Nancy Sinatra as his girlfriend, Mike. And she's, if you hadn't figured it out, the daughter of Frank Sinatra and sister of Frank Jr. and Tina. Mostly known as a singer, especially for the classic tune, These Boots Are Made for Walking.
Which Crispin Glover covers on his album. He does a really, really weird, frantic, terrified version of it.
So that song might actually have to be playing in the background during a fight on our biker movie.
It'd be perfect.
With our half Crispin Glover gang fighting Crispin Glover. Loser is played by Bruce Dern. And honestly, I really didn't recognize him at first since he was so young, but he's in a lot of movies. Probably the most iconic role that I could think of, though, is Mark Rumsfeld in The Burbs. He's also in Hush Hush.
Oh, yeah, he was in that.
He's in Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, Hang 'em High. They shoot horses, don't they? Support your local sheriff, and most recently in The Hateful Eight.
He was really good in The Hateful Eight. I just watched that again the other day because Netflix released the mini-series version with 40 more minutes.
Oh, dang. Yeah, I'm awful. Mom keeps telling me I need to watch it, and I know I'm going to kick myself when I finally watch it and realize how amazing it is, but I've been putting it off.
Dude, now that they split it into a miniseries, it's a lot easier to watch in palatable chunks. You just watch it an hour at a time. I'd recommend doing it that way.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah.
Now, Loser's wife, Gaysh, is played by Diane Ladd, who was Bruce Dern's real wife from 1960 to 1969. So I thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
She's also in Something Wicked This Way Comes and Carnosaur, which we will eventually have to tackle that trilogy. Because
Something Wicked
Scott
This Way.
Valentine's in one of them.
That's what I recognize her from. Something Wicked This Way Comes.
The year is 1966 in this film. AIP needs a drive-in flick. Enter Corman, the master of speedy film production on a budget. $350,000 in 3 weeks is all it takes to crank this out after extensive script rewrites, using nothing but the tales told to them by the real members of the Hells Angels. Roger Corman and Charles Griffith can save this wild ride of drugs, dancing, sexism, and mayhem. Then Peter Bogdanovich rewrote it because apparently the first and second rewrites were really boring. Nobody else in the story matters. They're all pretty interchangeable after this. It's just really Blues and Loser who are the two important characters to remember. And Loser's wife, Geish, kind of.
Yeah, there's a weird subplot that I don't know if you're going to touch on. Were you going to touch on the drug thing at all?
I was going to touch on the swastikas, but let's start with the drugs first.
All right, so the drug thing was, I assume this is a ratings thing. Like, I assume the MPAA or whatever passed for the MPAA back then had something to do with it. But they kept referring to, I think they kept calling it horse, which is a slang term for heroin and would have been used back then. But they were like huffing, like, I can't remember if it was a rag or like a little bottle, but they were definitely like huffing fumes, like, and I don't know if they invented a drug to get around some kind of weird rating problem, and I've seen this in other movies before where they call a drug by its real name, but do it in some sort of weird manner. Yeah, it was real strange. But yeah, Bluesy was all against it all throughout the movie until the
finale when he just gave up. Now,
he embraced nihilism.
When the movie opens, you get a swastika in the title card, which comes into play throughout the film. The swastika shit gets Loser fired with his boss, who's played by Dick Clark, who's in just about every Roger Corman film, who sees it and gets pissed off. And you can easily understand why, because his character was a World War II veteran. But I'm not really sure, and maybe there's maybe they kind of combine together, but I'm not sure if the swastika at that time was supposed to be counterculture to make people angry or because there was a lot of white supremacy in the Hells Angels or general biker gangs.
I think it was probably a little bit of both. I think that this is right in the middle of freak out culture where the hippies were just out being weirdos, and biker gangs back then were out to just offend people, smell really bad, and I think I would almost guarantee you that all of these old motorcycle clubs had race rules in their charters.
Yeah.
I bet the Mexican gangs all stayed Mexican, the white gangs all stayed white, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Why did you just put that up on my screen?
Because I'm going to have you quote Roger Corman.
Oh, okay. It just went away, but I'll find it again. But yeah, I think that it's probably mostly shock value, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the values that those symbols represent were also important to the subculture, which is unfortunate because you can't preach freedom while you're oppressing an entire race of people.
You kind of wonder if it's because all of those people would have been probably around the age for their parents to have been World War II veterans, and whether or not they went in that extreme direction because they had daddy issues.
Oh, that's a really good point too. Like using the symbols your parents hated against them. Yeah. I mean, the same thing happened in the 70s with punk rock. Like there were a bunch of non-race guys who just didn't care who was what, nothing mattered. I mean, they still wore swastikas just to shock the older people.
Yeah. Well, I found an excellent quote from Roger Corman in an article on senseofcinema.com, which sort of explained this group in this film and what he was kind of going for. I would like you to quote it, please.
All right. The Hells Angels were part of a movement of people who have had no part. Wait. Sorry. I should actually read it instead of put my own words in. The Hells Angels were part of a movement of people who have no part. The Hells Angels were part of a movement of people who have no part in a technical society, who are frozen out. Their jobs are being automated now, and I think we have to anticipate a future when a large part of when a large part of our society will be unemployable. You're welcome for that extra editing time.
Yeah. It's so incredible how easily we can sometimes predict the future, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. That is applicable to today, 100%.
Very applicable. In fact, you kind of wonder if there's going to be another resurgence of this sort of counterculture, or if they're all just stuck in the red pill men's rights movement.
Oh, that would be unfortunate. I would like to see something like that happen again.
Yeah. Not
the men's rights movement, but like these weirder countercultures sort of coming up as a rebellion against, like, I mean, that's what happens. Like, it's economics creates
strife,
subculture. Yeah, because of the strife. Like, punk rock wouldn't exist if we didn't have a bunch of poor kids.
Yeah.
You know, rock and roll wouldn't existed if a bunch of oppressed black people didn't start playing the blues a little bit faster.
Well, actually, rock, I would say, is more like of a play on gospel, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but I mean, it all, like, even, I mean, it was gospel, blues, rock, yeah, it all, it's
every
all
genre of music evolves from another.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, of course, I am envisioning a bunch of, like, incels, of really fat incels on motorcycles with fedoras going, "Milady," so you drive by.
They'll all buy sport bikes, too. They'll all buy, like, crotch rockets. Oh. I hope their gang's name is the Miladies. Like, they get, what would the patch look like for that? It'd be like Miladies up top, and then the picture would be like
that anonymous mask, the Guy Fawkes mask.
Either that, or they would just totally take the Milady meme and, like, use him as their center patch. Use that guy. Oh, that would be awful.
And they would keep katanas strapped to their backs just in case they need them.
Just in case they need them, and because they saw a really cool scene in a movie where a bunch of people on motorcycles fought with katanas, which happens, I think, in John Wick 3, but was influenced from another, some Asian film that I can't remember the title of. But yeah, you're right. There will be katanas. There are always katanas.
And the way they trick out their rigs is by just adding a really extra large drink holder to them.
Maybe a couple, like, external hard drives. My motorcycle holds a terabyte. There's so much Rule 34 on this bike, you can't even imagine.
Oh man, they programmed them to have female voices.
Oh God, no. Just so they can
Their waifus. This is an awful biker gang.
Yes. This biker gang, this is the gang that shows up in the beginning of our biker movie and the Crispin Glovers destroy them.
Was that what we're calling them? The Crispin Glovers?
I feel like we have no choice.
So the shaky camera action in Wild Angels added a really cool feel to the movie. It felt a little bit more, it's a pretentious word, but I guess organic. There are a lot of great shots, like really wonderful landscape shots, especially when they're going down the road.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, even like they shoot the chaos really well too. Like it really is hard to, like, you feel like you're kind of there trying to follow along. Like, yeah, the shaky hand cam stuff was really well done.
And it should be obvious that this movie inspired Fonda to come up with, the concept for Easy Rider, which he co-wrote. And also he was very pretty in this movie. I feel like I gotta say that. He was really pretty in this movie.
Yeah, he was really pretty in this movie.
I will say that a lot of the scenes could have used some heavy cutting because they were very long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for such a short movie, they did drag out a lot of stuff.
But getting to the characters, because I think this movie is more about character study than it's about story. Heavenly Blues is not a leader. He's just the guy who kicks enough ass to keep everyone in line when he gives a shit. He is a terrible leader.
Yeah, he really is.
Loser was a dumbass. He stole a cop's motorcycle. What did he think was going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And then Blues went back to his gang after, Loser got arrested and they fled the scene when the Mexican gang kicked their asses, bragging about that fight when they pretty much got nothing out of it.
Yeah.
Now, I thought it was interesting that you really don't see any nudity in this film, but it still feels very dirty. And it kind of shows really well how you can make someone feel gross without actually showing them really graphic stuff.
Well, the sleazy guys in the gang are like super sleazy, especially when it all comes to a head at the end at the funeral.
Yes.
Like,
oh my
yeah.
gosh.
But that is a good point. Like, they set up those characters to be that horrible so early on that you just felt it coming.
Yeah. And Loser has no peace in the entire film, even in death. The movie starts with him losing his job. Then he gets into that fight because his bike got stolen and hacked up. Then he gets arrested and ends up in the hospital because he's shot in the back. Then his friends rescue him and he ends up dying because they disconnected him from life support.
Yeah, they rescued him by taking him away from the only people who could keep him alive.
Yeah. And then at his funeral, they desecrate his corpse.
And Blues makes that funeral about him.
Yes.
Like, he's so selfish. Like, yeah.
Blues
worst funeral ever.
Blues really reveals how much of a fake he is. He's a hero for those with no direction, a paper tiger, terrorizing the meek simply because they don't fight back. I mean, what's his greatest fight in this movie? Yelling at a poor old priest who was just praying for Loser's soul, which was his whole purpose. I've got one more quote for you. And this one you're probably going to be familiar with because I want you to give us the full glory of Blues's eloquent speech at that funeral.
All right.
This is cinematic, my friends. This represents everything that these bikers stand for.
Here we go. We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded and have a good time. And that's what we're going to do.
And after that, a party starts at the funeral. They hogtie the priest, throw him behind the coffin. Geish tries to cry over Loser's dead body. Frankenstein and another friend rape her. And they all just party and destroy the funeral. Yeah, so
and they take Loser out of his coffin and make him sit there and like smoke cigarettes and just like, no peace in death, man.
Yeah, like his wife has basically gone crazy after she got raped and she's apologizing to his dead body.
Oh yeah, that scene was cool. I mean, rough, but it was a good scene.
She was apologizing because she felt something, which actually, I was astonished to see a speech like that in a film from this time. You know, the idea that she felt guilt after being raped is something that a lot of people actually do experience. So it's startling how realistic that little moment was.
And I bet that was felt by a lot of women back then because, I mean, not only did society as a whole treat women, I mean, we still treat women very poorly, but even worse back then. But the bikers did treat them as objects. Like, unless you were married up, like you were the club's property. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Apparently, there's some kind of jail rule too that your wife, like, if you're in jail, your wife can. The way I've heard it though has been a little more consensual because maybe it's more of a modern thing. But if your husband's locked up, you're not expected to stay like, what's the word when you don't cheat on somebody? Stay loyal. Yeah. Like you can mess around if you want to.
That is awful.
But yeah, I mean, back then, like just the way women were treated as objects and passed around is horrible. And you read about it in all these, like, I think it's mentioned in Sonny Barger from the Hells Angels autobiography. I think that crazy writer, gonzo journalist Hunter S. Thompson writes about it in his Hells Angels book. Like,
it's and I think that was the most powerful scene in this movie.
Yeah, and now we live in a world where dentists emulate those guys.
Oh god,
so weird.
I love what they do with the funeral dirge in this film because they take this really happy-go-lucky title song that's been playing throughout the movie. And they slow it down and they add a nice bass note to it. And it's great how it just transforms the tone of the song.
Yeah, that was super cool.
But yeah, I didn't initially enjoy watching this. I found it kind of dry, kind of boring. And you know me, I can enjoy a good, long, dry, boring movie. But I had to go back and I had to let it stew in my mind a bit. And in retrospect, I do appreciate the simple messages behind this film, even though it did drag a bit. Because as a character study, I think it was really well done.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I enjoyed it. I did. I think that the moments that it wanted you to feel something always worked. Like, I felt terrible for the woman. I cringed at everything Peter Fonda said, pretty much. Maybe that's not what they wanted me to feel, but like, I really, it's one of the better biker films out there.
And I wonder if what inspired this film was that Peter Fonda Fonda looked at this empty character who wanted to be free, and he thought, what if I made a story for a character who had more depth to him, someone who was a more likable, good human being who wanted to be free? And that's how he came up with Easy Rider. But maybe that's just me romanticizing it.
I can see the train of thought there. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. But guys, watch Easy Rider, please.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. That's all I have to say about Wild Angels. I think it's worth watching once.
I've seen it like 3 times now accidentally. I always forget it every time I watch it, though, so it's like I'm watching it over again until I get to the funeral part and I'm like, oh, it's this movie. I remember.
Next, we've got an altogether different and yet still similar sort of film that stole some music from my movie.
Yeah, well, it didn't steal. It legally acquired. Yes, this Hellride is meant to be a celebration of all things biker movie.
Oh, it is. It is.
Sorry. My finger got stuck.
It feels like cheap Tarantino.
Yeah. Well, Tarantino produced it.
Cut off their heads?
Yeah.
Take them with us. I say we just take
There's a story behind that, too.
Call it a day. How's about we torch the trailer and get
I do like the biker leader. I like them all, actually.
Yeah.
That's Michael Madsen,
There
right?
is no law to follow.
He was the bad guy.
So perfectly in this.
He was the bad guy in the Charlie Sheen biker movie I watched.
Here.
The what?
He was the bad guy in the Charlie Sheen biker movie I watched.
Oh.
Pistolero.
I knew it would come to this.
You got that right.
Oh, hell.
Not great female characters.
What tipped you off? The outfit?
And Comanche.
Take us to the Sixers. Sure thing, man.
Dennis Hopper!
No problem.
But when an old enemy
When I saw him, I thought that was pretty awesome.
With a vengeance.
rides off with their score,
You know anything about a safe deposit box?
Can we get down to business?
they'll fight back
We got some serious hell fighting to do with Billy Wings.
at full throttle.
In or out? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I'm in.
This summer,
The key to a good business relationship is everybody's happy. I ain't happy, Johnny.
the road to revenge
I treated you like a son. Oh well, family isn't everything.
is gonna be one hell of a ride.
How are you doing, weaponry-wise?
What are you, a bike-to-bike salesman?
Featuring Michael Madsen, Vinnie Jones, with David Carradine and Dennis Hopper.
I actually felt that one.
Tarantino presents Hellride, written and directed by Larry Bishop.
Bishop. Where do I know that name?
Larry Bishop was in Kill Bill. Larry Bishop was also in every single biker movie in the 60s and 70s. He was in Savage 7. He's hard to recognize. He looks very different when he was younger. So you can't really talk about Hellride without talking about its conception. Apparently on set during a break, and this is sort of legend, so I'm not telling it how exactly it happened. It's how I think it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Madsen and Larry Bishop. I'm going to do that a lot. Michael Madsen and Larry Bishop. God, this would be a totally different movie if it was Larry David. I kind of want to see that movie now. Yeah.
But only if Crispin Glover was also in it. He could play Comanche.
Of course. Is it his birthday or something, or do you just hate me? So they're all on the set with Quentin Tarantino during Kill Bill, and I assume, and word is Tarantino had just watched The Savage 7, which is a pretty decent biker movie, although very, very simple. Mm-hmm. Bikers ride into this working class coal town and shenanigans ensue. Larry Bishop is in that. He plays, I can't remember if he plays the leader of the biker gang or the second or something. I forget. Doesn't matter. Different movie. We'll watch it later. So they get to talking about that because Tarantino had just watched it again. And Tarantino apparently went off about how, like, Larry Bishop, it's your destiny to make the greatest biker movie of all time. And I'm going to produce it for you.
That sounds like something Tarantino would say.
Yeah, I know. So, like, everybody was in. Madsen was down to do it. Quentin Tarantino was originally supposed to play Comanche, which would have been real weird.
Yeah.
He ended up playing a character in a Takashi Miike film called Sukiyaki Western Django instead. David Carradine's character was originally offered to Peter Fonda, but Peter Fonda said no because Peter Fonda was done doing biker movies.
Oh, that would have been a great throwback, though.
I agree. So basically, we got Dennis Hopper though. That's enough for. You don't need too many throwbacks. I think.
Yeah, that's true. There are a lot of throwbacks.
Yeah, there really are. So this is kind of what set the stage for this movie, and this movie kind of was supposed to become this sort of celebration of all things biker exploitation from those late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s movies, and they tried.
Short somehow.
They tried with minimal success here and there. It ended up being more like a celebration of boobs and drinking.
Yep. Like kind of with the flashbacks, it did feel a little bit of Sergio Leone there.
Yeah. But they were even with this, like, and this is another thing that I think Larry Bishop said in an interview. Part of the celebration was the female body and the female form, and if you, I know it's a dude,
yeah.
but say what you will, at least there are a few different body types represented. Nothing super real.
Listen, I'm sorry, but if you were really celebrating the female form as an artistic pursuit, nothing would be jiggling constantly. That's all I'm going to say.
No, you've got a very good point, and I was glad to see that it was all races, even in the clubs. Like there was a black victor. I think all the 666ers were white, though. That's something I would like to talk about, too. The names of these biker gangs are so great and so blatant. Like, you've got the gang that's obviously going to win in the end, called the Victors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see it coming from the beginning. And then you've got the bad guys, the evil biker gangs, called the 666ers, with the coolest logo ever. It's the top patch is 666, and then the middle patch is this screaming goat Baphomet face. It's so rad.
I was hoping it would get a little supernatural, but it didn't.
No, it didn't. They did plan on it being a little bigger. The whole end of I guess I should probably talk about the plot a little bit first.
Yeah.
Of what there is. So the plot is, speaking of Tarantino, the plot is very disjointed and it jumps around a lot. It doesn't work very well in this movie. It gets confusing. I, in fact, still have no idea when Bob the Bum got killed and who killed him. I'm pretty sure the Bob the Bum got killed at that first party when they were listening to the CC Rider song. And he got killed by the gent.
Yeah, I wasn't even really following his character that much. All I knew is that the bad guys had killed him and the bikers were upset.
Well, because I've seen this so much, that's just what I've come to. I'm not sure. If anybody else is a fan of Hell Ride and can support my gent killed Bob the Bum theory, please let me know.
I mean, who else would have done it?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the 666. They're a little too high profile for such a ninja-like assassination. Anyway, so what I can gather from the plot, I do want people to see this, so I'm not going to ruin it. At least not much. So it all starts in 1970. Well, actually, it all starts in 1969 when Pistolero, Larry Bishop's character, sleeps with a woman named Cherokee Chisholm, who is dating the president of a rival gang called the 666ers. Now, if I understood this right, the two of them at the time were working together selling acid. But because of this Cherokee Chisholm girl, there was some kind of falling out because she was stealing money from the Sixers, and they ended up murdering her, and then they disappeared. The 666ers were off the map. So then it was just the Victors running things or doing whatever biker gangs do in the desert. They were the only ones doing it now. So they had been gone from 76 up until 2000. It's 32 years later. So 2008. So the Sixers start coming back in and they're starting to move in on the territory again. And it gets a little muddled here because a lot of the victors, actually almost all of the victors, are jumping ship over to the 666ers. And it doesn't really explain why. I mean, one guy does it for money. Everybody's talking about money, but like you don't really see the deal. You don't actually see the victors really working with the Sixers at all because the one
it's
time
like a lot of stuff is cut out, you know?
Yeah. And that's what I think this movie needs. It needs another half hour.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. So yeah, the only time you see a Victor and a 666 are really sitting down to talk was Dr. Cement and Billy Wings. And Billy Wings just is like, all right, your services aren't needed anymore, and kills him with that weird ass little compression gun he has, that compressed air trident launcher. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Dennis Hopper was fantastic.
Yeah, Dennis Hopper, I don't even want to, I won't even call his role a cameo in this. Dennis Hopper plays one of the founding members of the Victors, who is apparently retired because he's not wearing his colors. And he's mostly just there to antagonize everybody. No matter what team you're on, he's going to be an asshole to you. And
he is sick of this shit.
Yeah. Every moment he's on screen is perfect. The whole ladies' night thing was dragged out, but it was really funny. Like, a lot of the dialogue is like that in this. It's really hard to explain. There's a lot of word repetition and then some stream of thought, word leading to another word, leading to a sentence kind of conversations. And I'm sure they did this to make it seem smarter and make it feel a little more poetic. More often than not, it doesn't work in this movie, but I respect the fact that they tried.
It
definitely
like they were
worked for
trying
Dennis Hopper.
too hard in some ways and not hard enough in others.
Yeah. Like anything Dennis Hopper says is pretty much golden.
Yeah.
Any interactions between Comanche and Hopper's character, who's Eddie Zero. Any interactions between Comanche and Eddie Zero are great. Mm-hmm. Any interactions between Comanche and the Gent are pretty great. But anytime, and I hate this because Larry Bishop is like the OG. He was in all these movies back in the day. He wrote this one and he directed it. Like, he's all over this movie. And his lines just came off as like he feels like he's phoning it in to his own movie. He's trying to be such a quiet badass that he just looks bored the whole time.
Well, it's really difficult to direct yourself, too. That's something a lot of artists do struggle with, and they don't always do it well.
Yeah, I can see that. But
it's hard to be like to have an outside perspective of how you're doing or how your performance is.
Yeah, for me, it's just sad that the main character, the guy we're supposed to be following through this movie, is just so unlikable and boring because he's just.
Well, he was kind of sexy. He had that going for him.
True. You know what? I'll take that back. That scene in the bar between him and the girl about the information.
Yeah.
That was a sexy scene, and he played sexy really well in that. But I don't think that would have worked had he been playing off any other actress, because I think that girl was just so confident in what she was doing that it infected his performance and it worked. She was even confident I don't know if you caught this, but there's one point where she's like leaning in that doorway and like being all sexy. She turns around to face the doorway and slides down. It looks like she's trying to do like some sexy like rawr biting motion. And it looks like she almost bit the wall, and she catches herself and sort of like changes her. It's just for a split second, but you can see her break character be like, shit, I almost bit a wall because I was pretending to be sexy. It's so funny. She's actually, I think, my favorite character in the movie, just because she's this tough ass, like random woman that I guess owns a bar in the middle of nowhere and hears things and passes along info to Pistolero because she's into him. But she's also like super tough and badass. She meets him out in the desert at some point, gives him a bunch of peyote so he can go off and think. And she eats a bunch of peyote while she's reading his memoirs and ends up getting super tripped out and thinks he's going to break up with her. So he stabs her in a gut, or so she stabs him in the gut with an arrow, because of course she has a bow and arrow for some reason. Everybody has to have their weird weapons in this. And
Then she
then
patches him
realizes
up.
what she does and fixes it. I love her character so much. So I've decided that this movie takes place in the same reality as Mad Max, around the same time as the first Mad Max.
That actually makes it a lot more
explains,
interesting.
yeah, it explains why there are no cops anywhere, because society has already started to fall. Maybe it was right after the first Mad Max and like right before the Road Warrior. That's what I would say. Because the whole time, like, these people are just murdering each other in like what I imagine are public places, bars and like highways and stuff. And there's not one cop in this entire movie doing anything about it.
This was kind of one of those movies where you feel like it didn't really nail everything, but it was still enjoyable.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
to watch.
This is one of those movies, like I did it with The Breakfast Club a lot. Like I would watch The Breakfast Club before high school when I knew I was going to have a bad day, because I would feel the power of Bender enter my body. And if I could harness the power of Bender and a little bit of Ali Sheedy's character, I could get through the day. Pump Up the Volume, Christian Slater's character, same way. I'd watch him before school and I would have a very good day.
This movie I would sort of a lot when I was sad.
I get that. It's a little weird.
The scene where she guided, like, she started doing all these things for everybody, and she guided the blind man across the street and like described the world to him.
It wasn't her goofy little cute orgasm.
No, I don't.
That's all I remember.
That's
yeah,
like
she
in the
has
opening.
It's early on in like the opening montage. I don't know. What else do I have to say about this movie? Oh, this movie was supposed to be a lot bigger budget-wise. I don't know if they thought they had enough money or they didn't get enough money, but there was supposed to be this crazy, like, they were supposed to jump over, like a gorge, like the Grand Canyon or something. Like, there was supposed to be, like, bike-to-bike fights and, like, gun jousting and stuff. They just didn't have the money. So they ended up filming the showdown. I'm not going to get into it, but and I still think it works. I like the way they end it with this movie. It takes you by surprise, but it's a good surprise.
That kind of makes me think of that classic Indiana Jones scene where the guy pulls out his swords, does all the tricks, and then Indiana just pulls out his gun and shoots him.
Yeah, that is exactly how it felt. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe Larry Bishop was sick on set that day.
Yeah, I would recommend watching Hell Ride. Yeah, I definitely. It was a fun day, you know?
Yeah. I mean, Hell Ride, I was really, really into motorcycles when I heard about this movie coming out. I heard about it about a year before it actually was released. So this was a year after I bought my first Harley. I had heard about this. So I was like all like wearing my leather vest and really excited for a new biker movie, because I had been watching all the old ones. Just because I was like, you buy your first motorcycle, you're living motorcycles for that first year at least. I was so excited, and then it fell off my radar right before release. I forgot it was going to come out. And then somehow something on the internet reminded me the day it was coming out. So I called my local Walmart to find out if they had it in stock. They did. It was $14. And at that moment I was still freelancing, so I only had like $5 to my name because I was a freelancer.
Yeah.
So I had
free, riding hard.
Luckily, I was living with this wonderful Norwegian girl at the time. Grace was her name. I still see her every now and again. And at the time, like, Grace has had an interesting life. She was like a politician in Norway for a while. And she had some residual money from some stuff she did back then. So she would call herself rich. And I begged to borrow $14 from her so I could go buy Hell Ride on release day. And she loaned it to me, and it was great. So Grace, I doubt you're listening to this, but thank you for the $14. I'm pretty sure I paid you back, but I can't remember. Hit me up if I did, and I'll get that to you.
So you begged a former Norwegian politician for money to watch a biker movie?
Who I was living with.
Ah, okay. You moved in with a former Norwegian politician and then begged for money to watch a biker film.
Yeah. That's how I roll. There's a pretty decent fight between Larry Bishop and Michael Madsen towards the end of the movie.
I like that fight, yeah.
Yeah, well, that fight actually spawned from an actual fight during production.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. The way I remember it is Madsen was kind of being a pain in the ass. Mm-hmm. He was just being a pain in the ass actor, and people were irritated. Larry was irritated. Like he would do stuff like get on his bike, like that beautiful Springer front end bobber that he drove. He would just get on it and tear away. He would just get on it and like bolt. He always said he was warming his bike up, but he would just go for a ride right before they were going to yell action and he'd come back. But him and Larry David got into a huge fight about what was going on during filming, and one thing led to another, and I guess Michael Madsen said something like, well, you know why I'm telling you this? You know why I'm saying this? It's because I fucking love you, or something like that.
What the hell? That sounds like Michael Madsen.
Yeah, I know, right? And it was so powerful at the time to Bishop that he added that argument into the movie.
That's pretty cool.
And it worked. That's one of the only, like, you really feel like Madsen's actually trying in that scene. He feels less like it's phoning it in there. And I think it's because, like, he felt that friendship at that moment. Mm-hmm. And I keep saying Madsen phoned it in, but I mean, that works for this role.
Not the character, yeah. Like
he's this
they're pretty
understated
much burnouts. They're bikers who are well past their glory days, having one last major adventure, really.
Yeah. And God, the costumer who decided to put Michael Madsen in a tux was genius. He's wearing, if you see this movie for any reason, it should be this one, audience. Michael Madsen, the entire movie is where he's got a tuxedo suit on. The pants are tucked into a pair of like biker engineer boots. He's got one of those frilly tux shirts on, those frilly button-ups on. It's got his club patch on the back of that. He's got a little 1%er patch on the side, and he carries around what looks to me like a Ruger Vaquero pistol. So he carries a single action pistol, and he's the one that does most of the murdering in the movie. Like, there's a scene where they break into this trailer and he just immediately kills everybody. And it's in the trailer, and that's when he was like, oh, my finger must have gotten stuck. And
like,
pistol there lines.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, the more I'm talking about it, the more I do like this movie. I think it's definitely very flawed, and it's very confused about the message it wants to say. And it's very confused about how it wants to say the message. But I think if you just want to sit down for like 80 minutes, I think it's 76 minutes total. It's a short movie.
Yeah.
But if you want to sit down to 76 to 80 minutes of fun, like, this is your movie.
I think maybe, it could have used some more work in the storyboard room, but I was really happy after, with watching it. Again, there could have been less boobage, but everything else was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, being a guy, I was totally okay with the boobage.
Yeah, figures.
It makes sense in the scene with Billy Wings when he's talking about his tattoos. It makes sense for him to do it in there.
Oh, that bit
shows what a horrible person he was.
Oh, that speech.
But I think, and I hate putting it this way, but he was able to use those women as props to show people how terrible he was.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
No, that worked. I just personally wouldn't have wanted to see it.
Yeah. But that's also the unfortunate thing about the nudity in this movie is that you've got, you're basically using all these naked women as set dressing, but you've got these other women who are obviously the strong, like, badass women in these guys' lives, but you don't give this whole stable of boobs and asses any sort of chance to be anything but that. You know what I mean? Like, It was nice to see strong women in this movie, and that worked very well. But it didn't really balance it out with the way they handled the nudity in it.
Yeah. I mean, at least in, what was it, Crank 2, it was funny.
Yeah, Crank 2 kind of gets a pass on everything because those movies are so damn good. The last thing I think I have to say on this is they had some budgetary problems. So a lot of the locations were what they looked like. That oil wrestling place, that was just a barn. Like, that was just a barn somewhere. And they didn't even have enough money to make signs. But what they did have enough money to do was to make logos and put them on iron-on paper and iron them onto these girls' underwear. So that ass shot when they're walking into that barn wrestling place, those were like iron-on patches of the club's logo. So I thought it was cool that they pulled little stuff like that to show location. Yeah, that's Hellride, man. Go see it.
The
Go
twist
rent it.
you can kind of see coming from a mile off, but it's still decent.
It's a very obvious movie. You know who's going to win. You know who's going to die, and you know who's going to survive.
And you know what the secret is. And...
Oh yeah, and you know what the secret is only a secret to the two idiots that should have figured it out years before we did. But yeah.
So if you would like to check us out at our blog, you can find us at Hallow-Holic.blogspot.com.
You can find us on the Twitterverse by searching for Hallow-Holics or looking for @Nowhere23.
You can also email us at Hallow-Holics@outlook.com. As you know by now, us reading information about this last email, we'll probably give you a shout out. Please email us. Email us, guys. Email us.
So earlier today, I had to go into my regular job at IUP because somebody needed me to see if I could fix the welder, which I couldn't. But lo and behold, when I'm there, that guy who threatens me all the time was standing in my shop, and he grabbed me from behind, and he must have hit me with something pretty hard because when I came to, he had my face pressed right up against my table saw with it turned on.
Oh, wow. He's getting intense.
I know. And he told me if I didn't tell you to look us up at podpedia.org, right?
Yeah. .org.
Yeah.
Yes.
.org. By searching for our portal, which is HHA, he would find me again and cut my face off.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That is intense marketing.
Yeah, but the weirdest thing about it was he hugged me and said goodbye afterwards. So I don't know if we're friends too or what.
Oh, I hate that. It's
kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just so ambiguous.
Mixed signals, bruh.
Agnes, can you pass me the iron knuckles? I think I'm going to take on these honkies now.
Well, I'll see what I can do, but I knitted that cover for them and we were having trouble getting them out. It was like that time with the mayonnaise jar that we were going to break over poor Kenny the Fork's face.
Why don't we just let them talk and quietly sneak out? You know, you do this every time. I tell you, pack the iron knuckles first. And then we'll just get on with it. We'll start our fights. We'll light the house on fire. We'll steal the money. And we'll be done with it.
Maybe if we throw a bunch of hard candies on the floor and just slowly back out, we'll make it. All right, let's give it a shot. Do you have any hard candy?
No, I don't.
Ah, shit. Let's just get out of here.
We interrupt this conclusion to bring you a message about our next episode we forgot to just announce.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be discussing 2 more biker movies, Lost Boys and
Werewolves on Wheels.
All right.
It is awful, and I can't wait for you to hate it.
Lost Boys is the greatest movie ever.
Yeah, Lost Boys is phenomenal.